right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rich Swerbinski with the Mortgage Collaborative. I want to thank you for joining us for this session today, titled Updates and Developments on TMC's Emerging Technology Fund. The fund is something we launched on November 1 of last year. Off to a great start with the fund. We get a lot of questions and inquiries about the fund and how to participate either as a lender member or maybe a technology provider. So we wanted to put this session together for the live audience that we have now, and also it's something that we could put together to distribute to members and partners and others that inquire in the days and weeks to come. So I'll start out by saying, any questions, comments, thoughts anybody has as we go throughout the session, please feel free to just voice them aloud. No need to wait till the end. You can just pump them into the chat or the Q&A. We can also unmute your microphone as well if you prefer to voice a question verbally. So before I introduce my co-hosts for this session here, wanted to just give a brief history on the Emerging Technology Fund and how we got to the point we're at. You go back now about a year and a half. We were at our summer conference in Nashville, Tennessee, and we close our conferences with a session called the CEO Roundtable. Essentially, all the key decision makers from all of our lender members that are in attendance in one big room where, we just have a very loosely moderated conversation on their observations of the events and discussions of the conference of the past few days and just of the state of the mortgage industry in general. Always a great session our members look forward to. In that session, the discussion had turned to some of our members' thoughts and concerns around their largest competitors in the mortgage industry, if it was the money center banks or some of the large national mortgage companies really, growing very quickly, and their concerns about their ability to more effectively implement and scale emerging technology, the emerging technology that we're starting to see work its way into the mortgage industry. The emerging technology we know is still coming to the mortgage industry. Certainly a lot still on its way here that is not yet here that will really dramatically change the manufacturing process of a mortgage loan. And, after some discussion about, the risks to small to medium-sized lenders of this happening, one of our members on the call, Mr. Jonathan Freed, kind of stood up and said, we got like 90 lenders in the room. Like, why don't we do something about this? So it was from that, spurred a discussion on the topic and, put kind of the bug in my head. Sandy had just happened to be at our conference in a different capacity, but we knew that he had experience previously managing funds. Long story short, it led to a discussion between Sandy and I a few weeks later after conference. Jonathan Freed was heavily involved really from the get-go in these discussions as well. We were ready to launch the fund right before the pandemic and all hell broke loose. We didn't know how that was going to impact things. So we hit pause, and then we quickly realized as we got into the summer months of last year that the demand had just increased for the fund, if anything, due to the results of the pandemic and how it affected things. So on November 1, we launched the fund. And today we're going to go over, basically the investment strategy of the fund, some details on the first investment that we've already made, the types of technology that we're assessing as part of the fund, and then the objectives of the fund more broadly and the opportunities within it and how people can get involved if they want to. So with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. I'll start out by introducing our fund manager that we hired to run TMC's Emerging Technology Fund of Asia West, Sandy Selman. Sandy, thanks for joining us.
Everyone.
And the aforementioned co-owner of Holland Mortgage out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Jonathan Freed.
Hello, thank you.
John, thanks for joining us. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to John to kind of give, I guess, the in the trenches mortgage lender perspective of the fund and some of the things that we're looking to do with it. John?
Thank you, Rich. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for participating. So for me, this is part of my frustration is about cost and efficiency concerns, as Rich had mentioned, about somebody else doing this better, either a larger company or an actual software provider coming in and doing this better and cheaper than we can do it. And it's a long-term concern of mine and a lot of other fellow members in the industry. And when we look at like industries that are are continually increasing in costs, like healthcare or like real estate. I wanted to be part of the solution and not necessarily part of the problem. I didn't want to perpetuate the problem and continue to raise costs. Obviously, that goes down to the consumer level, and at some point, it's fine until it's not, until it comes to a head. So, taking sort of a playbook out of TMC's, mantra, what they have to offer, it really gave me that push to talk to Rich, talk to Sandy about putting this together. And as a lender member, I find this absolutely fascinating. I mean, we get a chance to shape the industry. We get a chance to take software companies that have some good ideas, but maybe are rough, and apply them inside our organizations. We get to fund them. They are separate businesses, so we're going to make money at this, but ultimately we get to shape the industry as a whole, and not necessarily become part of the problem anymore, but become part of the solution. With TMC's gigantic network, I think you guys have, I don't know, Sandy and I talked about it, with like 16-17% of the entire U.S. Mortgage market is a TMC lender member, right? And that's a very, very powerful tool to direct change, to influence how we do things and make it better. I think the experience needs to be better for consumers, and also for our internal staff. The things that we have to put through, the stress. Last year was a really good, test. We, weren't sure whether we were going to be in business at the beginning of the year. And then at the end of the year, we had a tsunami of mortgages. So from a stress standpoint, would have been nice to spin up a few extra servers, right? And help handle the extra volume and smooth out those rough patches, instead of, stressing out the staff and having to spend so much time trying to keep people connected and be okay with what was going on with the pandemic. I mean, those kinds of things are really good motivators for company owners like mine and the TMC members. I mean, we definitely need to figure out great ways of helping not only our internal staff deal with these kinds of ebbs and flows, but better experience for the consumer, and then obviously a cheaper cost and more efficiency. I think part of that is the challenges we face are complex. The jobs that we have are the hardships are difficult, and I think that's why artificial intelligence and some of the automation hasn't permeated our ranks yet. But we can change that, and that's really what the fund is designed to do. It's designed to change the way this all works, and make that experience better for everybody. So with that, I mean, for my view of the fund and what we've discussed, those are the types of things that we're interested in. And as we've interviewed several software companies for investment, it seems to be the general consensus amongst the lender members. This is really what we're looking for. And with the first investment we've made and some of the subsequent investments we're looking at, I think this is a really great way of doing it. We can see 3 to 5 years into the future, which is quite amazing. So with that, I'll pass it over to Sandy, and then Sandy can talk to you guys.
Great. Thanks, John. So from my perspective, the issues that Jonathan just alluded to about the everyday experience faced by IMBs in dealing with the ebbs and flows of origination volume, and trying to keep costs low, and trying to be as efficient as possible, and so on. These are formidable challenges. And consequently, there are a lot of technology solutions that are coming to market now that fall generally under the rubric of fintech, whether they're payment solutions or information management solutions, or database solutions. They fall into various categories that impact your business from a variety of different angles. And given the intense interest in this space, I mean, the mortgage market's a big market. And successful solutions that break through are going to manifest in companies that scale very, very quickly. And as a result, the valuations in fintech are really quite amazingly high by historical standards. And so while we're in the process of looking for technology that can solve and address our own problems, what the fund allows us to do is also to participate in the financial upside of helping to make these technology ideas and concepts into commercial realities. So when we conceived the fund, the idea was to invest in earlier stage companies that had not yet received or gained significant market traction. And by bringing the market to the table, and when I say market to the table, I mean that the TMC lender members are the market, or they are the consumers of the technology that we're looking to invest in. We kill a number of birds with one rock. One of the birds that we kill here, which is as an early stage fund manager, has always been historically been my biggest problem, is trying to understand what the market response is going to be to any particular product or service offering. And I like to say that in this particular fund, where my limited partners actually are the market, it's like going to class to take an exam and having the answer sheet in one hand when I sit down to take the exam. I've got the market really on my arm when I go to evaluate, or we go to evaluate these prospective opportunities. I will tell you that we have calls every 2 weeks with the limited partners, and the mind share on those calls, as we talk about specific deal opportunities, is worth the price of admission alone. It's just I find it absolutely fascinating to have have the attention for 30 minutes to an hour of industry leaders talking about cutting edge stuff and is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is it going to scale? How can it scale? What are the barriers? What the collective market intelligence is of things going on around that particular opportunity. It's really, really fascinating. So that's one problem that we solve by having lender members as our limited partners. We have the market at the table. The second solution, or the second problem that we solve, is how do we, as a small fund, how do we increase our own presence in the fintech landscape? And in this way, we are very well differentiated from most of the fintech funds that are out there, because most of those funds have as their LPs financial investors, family offices, institutional investors, and individual investors and such. They're not IMBs. And so we can interact and are interacting with much larger venture funds who have a lot more investing firepower and deal origination capability than we will ever have. And they will invite us in because they want what we have, which is we bring the market to the table and we can provide an informed perspective to their analysts and their deal people as to what's going to work and what's not going to work. Which leads me to the third point, which is that I want to touch on, which was Maxwell, our first investment, which is exactly how we got invited in to that round that they were raising, which was oversubscribed. They had more people, more funds throwing more money at them than they were willing to take. Yet they created space for our fund to invest in that round because they wanted the mind share of our LPs to help them as they scale their business. And we were, even though Maxwell was not an early stage company by any definition, we liked what they were doing, and we thought it was a great foundational investment for the fund. For the fourth and final point I want to make, which is the synergies that we're trying to build within the portfolio. Maxwell, as a POS provider, as a fulfillment provider, they are acting as a bit of a technology aggregator for the lower middle portion of the IMB market, whereas one of their main competitors, Blend, is really sort of going for the higher end of the market. Maxwell, because they have become so well capitalized, because they're doing very, very well, they end up being a potential strategic acquirer, if I could say that 3 times fast, for some of the companies, the earlier stage companies that we're looking to invest in and scale. That wasn't the sole reason that we invested in Maxwell. It was one of the reasons. The other reason we invested in them is that Maxwell's doing a lot of interesting things, some that are public and some that are not public. And by being a shareholder, we get a seat at the table to be able to see exactly what it is that they're up to, which gives us a more informed view as to what's happening out there as we look at new opportunities. So, Jonathan, did I answer or hit the points that you wanted me to hit?
Yeah, absolutely. The other nice thing about the Maxwell deal and what their vision is, which which fits in line with the tech fund and the vision that we have, is that some of the companies that we're looking to fund are very synergistic with them in terms of helping them accomplish their goals. So maybe not even acquiring, but as smart and capable as they are, as Maxwell is, some of these other companies fill some of the gaps that they need to get to that next stage and all the neat things that we believe that they can do over the next couple of years. So getting creative ways of solving the problems that they have and what they need to be able to scale. So we can put these companies together. We see what their visions are, which are not public, right? We see what their struggles are because we meet with them regularly. And we have the brain power of the lender members, but more importantly, we can match these guys together. So if Maxwell needs this piece over here and company A has it, we can match the two of them up and we can play matchmaker, because we're all dealing with the same end goals. It's to drive down costs, increase efficiency, and make the experience better for everybody in the process. So in that particular case, yes, you definitely. But I like that synergy thing. I like to see what the companies are doing and then say, oh, hey, you should talk to this company over here. Let's match. You're not going to be able to be able to do that publicly because these are because of NDAs. But if they want to disclose to each other what they're doing, and that's synergistic, that works for us.
Yeah, I think also what would be interesting to the group that's on the line here is what are we looking at, sort of into the future? What sorts of things are we seeing that we find are most interesting? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. We've looked at a lot of deals. We've cast a lot of them aside because for reasons of they're not exactly in our strike zone, or we just don't think, otherwise good teams with good ideas that we don't think can scale rapidly or that don't address like key pain points for what we're trying to address. But the things that are exciting us and really grabbing our attention are things around machine vision, machine learning, AI. We've got a couple of investments, and I obviously can't discuss specific opportunities, but there's a couple of companies out there that we are engaged with that, again, because of who our LPs are, the market, because of their affiliation with TMC, which represents a potentially even larger market, addressable market, they're keen to have us invest. And we're keen to get involved with them because we think that we can help them and guide them to help scale their business. We can be more of a strategic investor, even though we're not investing with huge, we're not investing millions of dollars in these companies. We could potentially aggregate the millions that they need because of the syndicate funds that the relationships that we're forming as we get further into our business plan here. But that's really sort of our strategy, is to sort of take rifle shots at these things where we can add a lot of value and figure out how we can help the companies, and in so doing help ourselves as LPs and as TMC as the GP of the fund. I probably should say, before we run out of time, I should probably just say a couple of words about what the structure of the fund is for those who haven't had an exposure to it previously. Unlike a traditional committed fund where we go to our LPs and say, how much are you committing? And they commit their funds. And then we have, commitments that we can draw down on where, I can make a recommendation to an investment committee. And then when the investment committee approves investments, we pull down the money. This fund is structured differently. It's structured as a pledge fund. And what a pledge fund means is We surface these opportunities, we scrub them down, we do write-ups, we circulate them to the LPs, and when we are at a term sheet stage, we then say to everybody, one by one, are you interested in proceeding forward here? And if so, how much would you, as an individual investor, either you, if you've invested as an individual or as your company, how much are you interested in committing to this round? And we go LP by LP, passing the hat, as we like to say, and you're allowed to put in based upon in proportion to the number of units that you've purchased in the fund. So we sell membership units we sell membership units to fund the working capital costs of the fund. So it's, we're not raising a lot of money that way. It's just to cover the overheads. But then when it comes time for the investment commitment, you're not obligated to invest in anything, but you have flexibility to participate or not participate in any particular deal as you see fit.
Yeah, that is really it really is special, because when not all of us are going to agree at the same time, right? On any particular company's vision. Before we run out of time, Rich was kind of quiet through this through this process. So, Rich, tell everybody what kind of impact you think this is going to have on TMC as an organization and its lender members over the next couple of years. Like, what's your perspective from TMC?
I think it really it cuts right to the heart of who we are and who we want to be. Going back to when the 4 founders at TMC started the organization 8 or so years ago, it was really done to level the playing field in mortgage lending. Our founders thought at the time was that, a lot of the things that had resulted from Too Big to Fail and the meltdown and Dodd-Frank actually benefited lenders of larger scale. As we've seen technology emerge, from that point forward, my personal belief is that there are risks to smaller lenders as we move forward, as technology emerges, the new technology that is making its way into the marketplace. It's complex to implement and not cheap in many cases. So if you're a large national lender, maybe especially one that maybe went public in the last 6 months, there's no doubt that a lot of the reason we've seen so many mortgage companies go public recently is to raise money to bring their company into the next era of mortgage lending from a technology standpoint, and the dramatic impacts that will have on customer experience and the cost and speed to manufacture a mortgage loan. Going back to the discussion at our conference that started this, and I think that was what our members were saying at that time. Like, that is a big fear and concern of ours as we move forward. So what this does for our members, in the same way we try to do this with other aspects of membership and the collaborative in general, is to harness the collective origination might, the collective brain power of our national network of now 225 kind of best in breed lender members across the country, and give them the same power as Rocket Mortgage or one of these huge mega lenders. And this is what this fund potentially does. It allows our members that are participating to take a glimpse into the future, to see things that are still being developed, that not only they have a chance to provide feedback on and ultimately implement into their company right out of the gate, but if they choose to invest in it as well, there's that aspect to it as well, the potential to make profit by investing in a company that they believe has great potential. So that's the way I see it, that this is nothing we've made a penny off of. This is something we had to put up a fair amount of money out of the gate to get off the floor. It did represent a risk to us financially, but it was something we believed in because of, one, the impact it could have on our members. And at the end of the day, ultimately, we are an organization that supports small to medium-sized lenders and are very invested in, and anything that can help small to medium-sized mortgage lenders across America continue to thrive. That's ultimately the best thing for American home buyers as well. Nobody wants an environment in America where the money center banks and the 20 biggest mortgage bankers across America are doing, a disproportionate percentage of the volume. So
yeah, I was also very impressed when I called you. I thought I was gonna have to convince you to get on board with this. And you're like, oh, we're already thinking about it. Here, talk to Sandy. And I was like, I was thinking to myself, this might have needed to have been like 5 phone calls, a few meetings just to convince you to say yes. And Sandy, I just, we have never really talked about this, especially even in an open forum. But what, like I know what I want out of the fund. I know what the size. I mean, what do you think like the optimal fund size would be? I think we need to get a little bit bigger, some more limited partners. But what do you think like the ultimate goal would be in the next couple of years from the fund size? Like how big, how many deals are we funding a year, kind of thing?
Yeah, right now we have a dozen LPs, and I would like to, over the course of the next 12 months, I'd like to double that number. And I would like to be able to be in a position where we are doing a half a dozen deals a year. That sort of feels like a comfortable pace to me, 1 every 2 months. I mean, you can't always predict, kind of like deal origination volume.
Right.
You can't always predict when you're going to be able to, get good deals or whatever. But the more LPs we have, the more attention we're going to attract. The bigger the deals we do, the more attention we attract. The more deals we do, the more attention we're going to attract. The more LPs we have, the more deals we should suck in. Also, we should, because we've got a broader network of LPs that are actually out there looking. For those of you on this call who are not lender members, who are vendors, if you think you're a candidate for funding by the fund, please reach out to any of the 3 of us and let us know you're out there, and we'll respond quickly. So I don't know if I didn't really answer your question, because we don't have a headline as a pledge fund. We don't have a headline number. We're not a $50 million fund or $100 million fund. As a pledge fund, we'll never be able to say that, because we don't have committed funds under roof. But we can talk in terms of deal flow and numbers of LPs.
Well, and that's what I want to know. Like, what's the, I think we have a really great start, and obviously, considering what happened last year, I'm super happy that we were able to get off the ground. And Maxwell came to us right away, which was also, very fortunate for us.
It was a fortune, because it also forced us to exercise our arms and legs here a little bit on actually going through a closing process. So we made sure we had all those mechanics worked out.
Right.
That came upon us, more rapidly than I thought it was going to, but it was fun. We got it done. We hit the deadlines. It worked actually quite well. So I look forward to doing even better the next time.
It also, it just kind of fit into what I see in the next 3 to 5 years. I think some of our deals, I've told you guys too, there's a couple of limited partners I'm working with, and an AI company to try and bring up from. So for me, it's like the deal flow is going to be like vendors that are doing things that need money, some early stage. I think the early stage is going to be a little bit harder because of the complex issues, and maybe that's why some of these younger software companies haven't sort of permeated into the mortgage space. So we're going to have to, go out there. I know I've been doing a little work with the Pittsburgh Technology Council here locally, but I think some of it's going to have to come from inside. We have some really amazing lender members that have some technology that may not realize would be a benefit to others. So we also have to, shake that out of them. But I'm going to try and partner with a couple other lender members and a AI firm to help speed up that process too. So I think if any of the lender members have technology they've built inside, and they think it might be a benefit to others, it might be something, also to consider for funding.
Yeah, and just for our members that are on the line now, or maybe those that will watch this in the future, some other benefits just I've seen. John mentioned one of them, right? We have recurring meetings every other week. So every 2 weeks, I think Monday afternoon, we have a 30-minute time block we have carved out for our limited partners to meet. And typically, we're assessing at least one new opportunity that's come to the forefront. Sometimes we'll extend the window of that call from 30 to 60 minutes if we're seeing a more formal pitch from someone that we have interest in. But we've already seen it's our most tech forward members, and there's already been some synergies amongst that group that's led to side conversations and other discussions that they've had about maybe some things that they're building internally. So there's that. that piece of it as well. And, really just, again, for your company, I think the companies that have been involved have seen benefit of, being able to see some of the things that are coming down the pike, maybe even as it helps negotiations they're in with other potential third-party providers for their company, and positions their company as a very tech-forward organization being a part of a fund like this. So just some other things that we've seen that the current limited partners have found value in.
Yeah, it exceeded my wildest dreams. I mean, when I was mentioning that the CEO roundtable, I figured, we just, band together and start a little software company. And Sandy came along and said, hey, we can get hundreds of millions of dollars from other funds because what we have is powerful. It was a real eye opener. And just getting it started has been, it's checked a lot of boxes for me. Some of my staff is on this call, and they know how interested I am in technology and moving it forward. So it's been nice that they get a chance to be a part of that conversation and help us as a mortgage company, but also help further our technology goals as a company. Everybody's on the same page. We all recognize that we need to be part of that solution, not part of the problem. We really need to believe in this, and that gives us longevity in our businesses. So I have to say thank you, Rich, for just being like, hey, yeah, no, we're interested.
I mean, that conversation, and then John called me a couple of months later, basically with a plea to enact the plan that I'm like, we're already working on it. Like, I was about to call you. So, but it's been very rarely do things like that end up coming to fruition. So that has been nice, especially with everything that happened last year with the pandemic, right in the middle of it all. And for technology providers out there as well, outside of the obvious benefit of being able to procure investors that are the end users of your product, and the potential customers that would come along with that. I think that another advantage is, and Sandy hit on this, that, one of the first things Sandy did as we got this thing going was with his contacts, reached out to a number, 30 to 40 fintech focused committed funds that he has contacts with, and been on at least a dozen calls with those fund managers, just because of the obvious synergy. We're not bringing to the table, $100 million of investing power, but, maybe couple million dollars from, a handful or large handful of members of ours. But just the obvious synergies there for, like Maxwell did. I think they were oversubscribed, but they saw the value in, having an investment block from our group. And I think we're starting to see some of the same synergies from some other funds, with a similar focus. So just something that an additional benefit to being involved with what we're doing with the TMC Emerging Tech Fund. So.
Yeah, Sandy, you too. I mean, probably didn't take much convincing for you either. I think you recognize the power of this right away.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't have a mortgage background. I don't come from this industry, but when I got involved with it, I was like, holy cow, this is an industry with a lot of money flowing through it. It's pretty fragmented. Nobody does anything. No two companies do it exactly the same way. And it's way behind the technology curve. So that's why valuations are so high, is because there's so much opportunity.
There is. Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it. And thank you guys. Honestly, you guys are checking a lot of boxes for me personally, as
likewise
those who know me. You guys, yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything else in my notes, unless you or Rich have anything.
No, I want to kudos again, and I want to repeat what you said, John. Kudos to TMC for taking the bull by the horns here, being very proactive, and doing something that not a lot of industry groups would do, which is to put themselves out there in this way. It's really commendable, and I think it's going to pay dividends not only for TMC but also for the members for years to come.
Will be fun to see how it evolves, and for those on the line, we'll be sending out a copy of this recording to you in your email inboxes in the morning if there's anybody you want to share it with in your organization. And as always, any questions, thoughts anybody has in the matter, you know how to get a hold of me. And I can connect you obviously with John or Sandy if you don't have their contact information as well. But I want to thank you for taking some time out this afternoon to learn a little bit more about our Emerging Technology Fund. Appreciate your time. And again, any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out. So have a great afternoon, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.